bad guy.
Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Across the Gridiron. I am Matt and I am once again joined by my friend and yours, Eddie Equo, as we preview the Week 12 action in the NFL by giving you our picks. But Eddie, before we dive all into that, how are you, sir? How have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. Yeah, it's been I have to say, I'm kind of getting to the end of the week, absolutely shattered. It felt like it's been a very long week. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that it's now freaking cold in the United Kingdom. So that generally just makes everything feel a little bit longer. Plus, the trains were disastrous today. It just seems like temperatures dropped to a minus degree and the trains are like, yeah, see you later. They just were horrendous.
So we are 1 minute and 30 seconds on into this recording. When I start by asking you how you are, and the first you do is do a massive sigh and a nervous laugh, following by "It's cold and the trains are shit." I mean, it really gets us going into a really positive episode of Across
This
the
is
Gridiron.
not going to be a positive episode because I kind of, I know what's coming, right? So I might as well just get the rant out of the way. We're going to have an early cowboy corner.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like the fact that you're already talking about your own performance in picks and you're equating that to the Cowboys season so far. But the one thing that I will say about the Cowboy season is there has been some positives, less so with your picks. I just want to. Should we just start by looking at last week's? Because that's obviously what we do.
Let's look at last week.
Okay. Well, look.
Last week. Let's see what happened there. Because I'm thinking 5-0, right? I'm thinking.
Well, look, let's start with the positives. The first game that we picked was the Panthers versus the Falcons, and we both picked the Panthers, right? So there we go, both on the board. It's a good solid start. Then we had the Bears at the Vikings. Now, obviously, I picked Bears because that made sense. You went for the Vikings. All right, 2-1. There's still time for you to come back, Eddie. Bengals at Steelers. I went for the Steelers. Yeah, correct for me. You went for the Bengals. Okay, right, 2-1. You can still draw level, Eddie. You can still draw level. Then we had the two big juggernaut games. I went for the LA Rams. So I get that one. Oh, Eddie, you some picked Seahawks. Now in the final one, we had Chiefs at the Broncos. Eddie, you went for the Chiefs, but your boy right up here in Sheffield picked the Broncos. Another one for me. And Eddie, it's the first time this season we finally have all 5 correct for one of us. So, this is an episode I've been looking forward to since Sunday night. Yeah.
Honestly, I think you've been looking forward to it since like week 2 or something.
Oh, but I mean, if we now, I am now 10 ahead.
You're now 10 points.
I've got a nice record of 35-18. I'm pretty happy with that. But Eddie, actually, I think some of those numbers are wrong. I think I'm 35 and I think some of those numbers are wrong, so they don't add up.
Yeah,
but either way, but either way, I'll need to maybe change that. But either way, I'm 10 up. Oh dear, Eddie.
Honestly, the footballing gods just pissed right over me the whole of the weekend, because this is the thing we always talk about stats, right? Why stats can be so misleading, because you look at those games and you think, you know what, those teams absolutely took the other teams to task, but those games were so close. They were fourth quarter games that finished, within a score of each other. And at some point, it could have gone either way. And the football gods were like, nope, not today. Piss all over my toast, beans, cornflakes, everything. They were just like having a right old.
But I know, but you've got to say this is a fantastic image, right? For week 11. I mean, considering you started off week 2, you were ahead. You had that disastrous week 4, but look at that gap there. I mean, that's just 5-1.
So many things you could put in that gap there. It's
absolutely. We've always loved the gap, Eddie. Right. So, and then the gap just gets that little bit wider, doesn't it? Just gets that little bit wider.
Honestly,
I actually don't think it's 35 by looking at this. I think by these calculations it should be more. I'm gonna have to double check those figures. But
it could be.
But yeah, it could well be more, Eddie. It could well be more. But look, as we say, this Sunday it's a new week. It could all change for you. But you know, do we think well? And actually, yeah, I did. It was a typo. It's not 35 and 18. It's 37 18. So I'm actually 12 ahead of you. Just to reiterate that. So that was me making a typology. That's the first mistake I've made all season. You know, so I'm okay with that. But look, the good thing is now I can start getting a bit wild and crazy with these predictions. You know, I can go and bet the Titans to win the Super Bowl, and I'll probably still probably win.
It seems like that. I mean, this season has not gone true to form, except one team, which is very annoying. But their day is coming, and that day is weekend.
Eagles, yeah,
the day is coming.
Oh dear. Well, at least you've got to be confident over something, haven't you, mate? So, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just get straight into this week's picks. And I will say, just to remind people who are new, you pick these games every single week. You know, these are your choices. I'm not giving you hard games to pick. These are your choices. And once again, you've picked another 5 games for us to look at. So let's go straight into it. And you've mentioned it. So why don't we just dive straight into it? We haven't really had a Cowboys corner for a while. So, yeah, because we were running a bit short early in the week when we did our review, we kind of glossed over the Cowboys win as well. So it's time for you to rectify that, Eddie. Let's roll straight into Cowboys corner and let's predict the Cowboys and your beloved Philadelphia Eagles. Now, how do you think this will go? Is this you leading with your heart? Is it leading with your head? What are you thinking?
No, I can't live with my heart with this one. This is the Cowboys had an amazing game against the Raiders. It was a fitting welcome back from the bye week, considering all that has happened with the Cowboys over the last 2 weeks. It showed a team that really came together. They were very focused, and it's amazing, what can happen when both sides of the ball decide to show up on the same game. The offense showed up, the defense showed up, and when that happens, magic happens, and the Cowboys certainly made magic in Vegas. They started off a little bit, you're thinking, what's going on? Max Crosby strip fumble. But the Cowboys defense were like, yeah, that's okay. We got your back, held the Raiders to 3 points. And then the Cowboys didn't look back after that. Dak Prescott, put on the cape, and Josh Pickens was absolutely amazing. He was like running like a man possessed. Considering that those 2 players were actually kept on the sidelines because they missed a couple of things. I suspect that they were out in Vegas staring at the bright lights, maybe watching the Bellagio fountains, fireworks, and forgot they had a game. And, the Cowboys coach was like, no, you stay on the sidelines. But it was a great performance. And it just reminded me what this team is capable of doing in terms of the offense. Now, if you look at the Eagles, they just send people to sleep in their games. The games are so boring. They don't look great, but they find ways to win. And I've got a bit of encouragement, going into this game. One, the Cowboys are much better at home. So this is why I'm saying that I'm not actually using my heart, to look at this game. I'm looking at, a lot of things. I'm looking at the fact that the Cowboys are at home in this game, and they generally are playing better at home. The Cowboys at home against divisional opponents, and Dak Prescott is almost invincible when it comes to playing divisional opponents at home. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter, what kind of season the Cowboys are having. When they play at home against division opponents, they're usually very good. Eagles don't have Lane Johnson, their right tackle. That's going to be interesting. And Jalen Carter hasn't looked himself. So you remember that first game where he got ejected and all of that. He's been playing a lot of the snaps for the Eagles, but he's only had one sack, so far in the season. And the Eagles do allow people to run on them. And I think that the Cowboys have got a running game that should worry the Eagles. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this game. And I know people who might be thinking, well, the Eagles, are a team. They've gone against. And the only thing I can look at is the two losses that the Eagles have had. They've come against teams that have had, good pressure and containing Jalen Hurts, not allowing him to run all over the place. And I think what the Cowboys showed me in that Raiders game, especially with Quinnen Williams, coming in, it was a massive impact. He already got a sack and a half in that game. I think the Cowboys defense have improved in that bye week. And so I think that this is the game that the Eagles got. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win this one.
I mean, that was probably the easiest question I think I've ever asked you. Cowboys over Eagles. I don't think you would. Even if you thought Eagles were going to win, I don't think you could ever actually say the Eagles are going to win against the Cowboys. I don't think you could physically do it.
I did the first game.
Well, I mean, you say Cowboys are better at home. They are. But remember, you've only had 2 wins at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 wins at home, 2 wins on the road. But the problem with the Eagles is it's their defense that have been solid and has been winning them games. Now, you've got a game here where you've got a top-rated offense against a top-rated defense, and a offense who have been struggling against a defense who have been struggling for the most part this season, right? So there is the potential ability to cancel each other out. I agree with what you're saying about this being at home being an advantage, and I say that obviously for 2 reasons. One, because you said Cowboys do have a better home record, and Dak loves playing against divisional opponents at home. This is also the first home game since the passing of Neeland. So there's obviously going to be a lot of emotion in the stadium. However, if we just look at the football side of it, I just think the Eagles will probably have enough to stifle the Cowboys. I may be wrong. Like, again, looking at if we were to pick this game, if we were picking this game 3 weeks ago, it would have been Eagles. It would be an Eagles no-brainer, right? Wouldn't it, really? And that was still with Eagles without setting the world on fire. But I just think the Eagles now just have to be a little bit sort of consistent. But also the Eagles, again, I'll keep talking myself around in circles because the Eagles are pretty much guaranteed a playoff place. They can afford to lose games, in order not to get close. However, they can't afford to lose too many games because they're gonna lose that. If they lose too many games, they're going to lose that first, second seed advantage, which they currently share with the Rams. So I'm going to go for the Eagles purely because I don't like picking Cowboys against the Eagles because I just like to annoy you. As I said, I'm 12 games up here, so I can do whatever the hell I want. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want here. But yeah, I'm gonna go for form on this one. Okay, let's move on to the second one. And this, when you pick this game, I looked at this one for ages and I couldn't make my mind up, and I don't know why. Well, I do know exactly why. It's because you're going over form over history, shall we say? And that's the Indianapolis Colts at the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, one of these teams are 8-2. One of them are 5-5. If you said that at the start of the season, you kind of assumed it would be Chiefs at 8-2 and Colts at 5-5. But no, it's the opposite way around. The Colts look playoff bound. The Chiefs have got a hell of a time. Are going to have to play incredibly well for the back end of the season just to even make the playoffs. I was struggling with this one, so I'll start with you to see which way you're going to go on this. What are you thinking of this one?
Listen, there was something we said about the t-shirts we're gonna make, and one of them was you can't bet against the Chiefs, right? You never bet against the Chiefs. But I watched that game against the Broncos because I wanted to understand, who are the Chiefs? What kind of team are they really? We talk about Andy Reid after a bye. He's almost invincible. After a bye, he just comes out, figure things out, and they go on the run. I remember the Chiefs, being 3-5 or so a couple of seasons ago, and they went on a run and they ended up in the Super Bowl. So you almost kind of think they've got muscle memory. They look resilient. They know what's going on. But I watched that game against the Broncos, and the Broncos weren't great necessarily offensively. But the problem that the Chiefs have is that their left and their right tackle look awful. Mahomes was getting, pressured, every single time. He was getting dropped. And first of all, I saw it against the Bills. Then I saw it against, the Broncos. And the Broncos have got a hellish, defense. Now, I don't think that the Colts defense are anywhere as good as the Broncos. But I look at this Chiefs team, and the only person that is really sticking his head out is Travis Kelce recently. He's been making plays, he's been catching stuff, but Rashee Rice, hasn't looked himself. Hollywood Brown has been a favorite target of Mahomes, but still, it's not doing enough to, swing the dime. So I cannot pick the Chiefs in this game, even though as much as I would want to pick the Chiefs, to win this game. I just look at it and I think the Colts, while I don't trust the quarterback, I know Daniel Jones has been on a magical ride, but I just think that they're capable of scoring points, a lot of points in this game. And hey, it's not going to be like the Colts are going to blow the Chiefs away. Far from that, because the Chiefs don't embarrass themselves like that. But they keep doing on Chiefs things. I mean, I was looking at the penalties that we're having, in that game again, and I'm like, this is unlike the Chiefs. They're getting penalties in critical, points. I remember that game against the Broncos. The Chiefs had an opportunity to win that game, but they punted. With a few minutes to go, normally you would expect the Chiefs to just march down, and the game's over. So having said all of that, I'm gonna go with the Colts in this one. I think that the Chiefs psychologically, I don't know if they can do it again. I think that maybe some of the players may be checking out and just putting the season over because they're so far behind. There's so many games behind. They have to literally win every single game from now to the end of the season, and not from the way they've been playing. So,
well, they have 7 games left, right?
Yeah.
And they've got Colts, they've got the Cowboys, so that's a W right there. Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, Raiders, right? So, theoretically, it is possible. The hardest game they've got there on paper is the Broncos, and they're at home. I've decided I'm going to pick the Chiefs, and the reason why is because they're getting to the situation where it's getting to that win or bust stage, right? There won't be many teams who have made the playoffs who are 5-6, right? So they are going to have to. They're going to have to. They are going to have to start winning games. They're going to have to start winning soon. They've got a 2-game. They've lost their last 2 games. They're against a Colts team who, look, they have done incredibly well. They've done incredibly well, 8-2, fully deserve it. You've got Jonathan Taylor, we've talked about potentially being MVP category at the moment. He's just been immense, gobbling up yards. And the Chiefs just have not been there. But they are 2 games behind the Chargers. They are 4 games behind the Broncos. They are not going to win the AFC West, but they can still make that chase for the wild card, because from that side, I think the AFC is incredibly open for a wild card, right? If you ignore the teams who are top of the divisions at the moment, you've got Bills who are 7-3, and they're pretty much guaranteed to take one of those wild card spaces, assuming the Pats win the division. You've got the Ravens who are second in the North, 5-5. You've got the Jaguars who are 6-4 in the South. And then you've got the Chargers who are 7-4 and the Chiefs 5-5. So there's one place, maybe 2 places up for grabs in that wild card position, but it's incredibly tight. Chiefs are still going to have to go on a run. And you look at their record, and I think one of the reasons why I'm picking the Chiefs here is because it's at Arrowhead, right? At home, the Chiefs are 4-1, right? Away, they are 1-4. If this was flipped, if this was in Indianapolis, I would have said the Colts. The Colts won every single home game, and the Chiefs have only won once on the road this season. It's at Arrowhead. They need to win. They need to step it up. They can't go on a 3-game losing streak at this stage of the season and make the playoffs. They're going to have to turn it around. So I am putting my faith in Patrick Mahomes. I'm putting my faith in the head coach. 2 all-time greats potentially. They're going to have to come out and they're going to have to show us and prove everybody else wrong. So I'm going to go for the Chiefs to actually start turning it around this weekend. If not, then they're probably done. I can make wild accusations here, can't I? So I'm fine.
Yeah. I can only say that those wins that they had at home, the only quality win that they had was against the Lions. But they beat the Washington, beat the Raiders, beat the Baltimore Ravens at a time when the Ravens were still rubbish. So
you can only play what's in front of you. But I mean, the Colts, the 2 games the Colts have lost this season have been on the road as well, right? Yeah. So who knows? Let's see. Let's move on to the next game now that we want to sort of cover off. Let's try and move through these ones a little bit quicker. I think this game boils down to the fitness of one particular man at quarterback. Now we've got in this game we're going to pick the Patriots at the Bengals. Now the reason why I say fitness of one man, it all depends on if Joe Burrows plays or not. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna make that much of a difference. I think this team is a really bad team, the Bengals team. I have tried to, look beyond a lot of things. And I don't think Joe Burrow is going to play this game. Someone was talking about him coming in early December. And by then, I think it's all over. It's a wrap. They're 3-7, right? And I've watched the Bengals, and I watched the last game as well, Joe Flacco. And I'm kind of thinking, okay, show me something, in this game to kind of make me think that this team is capable of winning a couple of games or just actually competing, with other teams. They just rolled over and got tickled. Jamar Chase, I don't know what was going on. He didn't really look. If you look at his yards, it was almost pedestrian. I mean, you could argue and say, well, it was Joe Flacco throwing him the ball, but come on, Joe Flacco is a veteran, who has been to a Super Bowl, who if you play with quality of players, should actually play better. I just think the team is just not a very good team. And they're not a very good team. And then on the other side, you've got a Patriots team that are looking like the Tom Brady kind of Patriots, back in the day. Everybody's looking hungry. Travion, the running back, he's just bulldozing people, dragging people into the end zones, at will. Diggs are making the plays every now and then. He might not get all the yards, but they're trusting him in some critical plays, that you got to have it play, maybe getting third down or getting something in the end zone. Diggs is showing up. Drake May, taking care of the football. He's not even getting sacked. I think he's had an average of 1 sack per game, all season. Now, if you're a quarterback, and this applies to most quarterbacks, if a quarterback can just stand there, and drink some tea, call his mom, say hi to the dogs, go walk the dog, come back, and then throw a pass, most quarterbacks will be accurate. And Drake May is getting protected, absolutely getting protected. So I don't see that changing. And I don't know which pass rush the Bengals are going to have to actually go and, give the Patriots anything to worry about. I've not heard anything about their pass rush. It's not anything to write home about. So I can only see this game going one way. It's going the Patriots way. And it could be bad. It could be what we saw, the Bengals absolutely getting shellacked, a couple of weeks ago. This could be that same kind of scoreline. I just think the Bengals are the bad team. I can't pick them. This is the Patriots.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You can't really make a case for the Bengals, really. If I'm honest, if I was in the Bengals organization, I would write the season off and wouldn't even bother bringing Burrows in. This season. There's no point. No.
Wait for a good draft position and then get help.
I mean, the thing is, if you were still playing Jake Browning and he was struggling like he was when he came in, you'd be like, okay, this is bad. Morale's bad. You don't want to get hammered every week in, week out. I just said they are paying a veteran quarterback in Flacco, right? He doesn't come cheap. You're paying him. You may as well use him, right? And then and give Burrows a chance to rest, to recuperate. The playoffs are over. If they were 5-5, right? If they were tied with the Ravens at 5-5, you'd be like, yeah, okay, get Burrows back in. You've got a shot for the playoffs, but there's no shot, right? So I would, it would make sense to leave him. But all right, we're both going for the Patriots. I think that's fairly obvious. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to look at all about the NFC. We're going to look at the Vikings at the Packers. Divisional game in the NFC North. One team is realistically in chance in line with a shot at the playoffs. One is pretty much just trending all the wrong way at the moment, and that's the Vikings. For me, I'll just say up front, I'm going to go for the Packers in this one. Similar to the last game, Vikings are just not on a decent run of form here. I can't see them picking up the win. They've been decent on the road. They've actually got 3 of their wins on the road, but I can't see them beating the Packers. Really, I think this is a game for the Packers. The Packers have to lose this themselves, I think, generally. So, where are you going with this one?
Yeah, so the Packers actually start a run of division games. So they play the Vikings, then the Lions, and then the Bears, right? So this is their season, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is it, right? If the Packers drop any of these games, you might as well start to write their chances of getting into the playoffs, in a different way. So I picked the Vikings last week.
I know you did.
To win the game, and that was a colossal mistake, because I watched the games, and And now that I'm in this kind of mode and I'm watching the games and I'm thinking, okay, it's time for me to start trusting my eyes. And I see better than what I read and what I hear in terms of these teams and what everybody's saying about them. The Vikings have got a quarterback in JJ McCarthy that's not looking very good, right? Carson Wentz is on IR. Justin Jefferson is not getting the service. Even at some point, no matter even if you're a star player, you do need some decent quarterback play, to actually do something. At least give him scraps or give him something so that he can actually go and, be the superstar that he is. I think JJ McCarthy, I don't know if he's completely healed, whether that injury is still in his head, because there's so much promise, for him. He probably needs to be taken out of the firing line, a little bit like what Carolina did to Bryce Young, last season. Take him out of the firing line. Let him just kind of see what the game looks like. But I don't think the Vikings are in the position to do that because I'm sure, in the Vikings organization, they still believe they can make the playoffs. Right. But I look at the Packers. They lost 2 games. Granted, the games were to the Panthers and also to the Eagles, where the offense looked incredibly sluggish. But in the last game, they actually looked a little bit better, and Micah Parsons, was showing up, in critical moments. The Packers got better defense. I believe they've got a better offense as well. This is a Packers win. I can't pick the Vikings. I'm sorry.
No, no. I'm agreeing with you. I'm going for the Packers as well, as I said. And just look at you mentioned that they've got the next 3 games in divisional games. I was just looking at the rest of the schedule for the season. It is brutal. The Packers. So they've got 7 games left. 5 of them are divisional games.
Yeah.
Right? So they've got to play the Vikings twice. They've got to play the Bears twice, and they've got to play the Lions. The only 2 non-divisional games they've got are Denver away.
Yes.
And then the Ravens.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that is an absolutely brutal running. But how would you look at this? I know we want to move on to our last game. We've already been talking for half an hour now. But how would you look at this? If you were a Cowboys fan or a Cowboys player or whatever, and you look at it and think, okay, look, we're second in our division. Out of the 7 games we've got to play all our divisional rivals, 2 of them twice. Yeah. This is proper destiny in your own hands scenario, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. It's very different to say like the Dolphins, who I know we're not talking about today, but the Dolphins have a fairly easy run of fixtures left really for them. So you think, okay, well, we should be able to go and win these. But, if you're in a situation where you're playing easy games, you win, your divisional rivals could win. In here, they've got to play the Bears twice. Those 2 are massive games looking at where the division is at the moment. How would you look at that? Would you look at it glass half empty, where you think, wow, this running's tough, or glass half full? We win these games, we're in the playoffs.
Yeah, you've got to look at it half full. If you're the Packers, you've got to say, our destiny is in our hands. As long as we keep everyone upright, we've got players to change the game here. And the Packers, they would have looked at this stretch in mind, as they were coming off their 2 losing games, and they were thought to themselves, well, we cannot go into those division games, being out of form, lacking confidence. So that last week game was very, very important for them. They had to win that game. That game, was for them to almost fix some of the things that they were not doing quite right. And to a large extent, I think they did, because those 2 games, the offense looked pedestrian. I don't even think they broke 10 points against the Eagles. So, they go into that last game and they thought, you know what, let's get our quarterback comfortable doing what he likes to do. And I think they did that in that game. And the defense held their own. Special teams didn't make mistakes. So yeah, if I'm Packers, I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I've got my destiny in my hands. This is exactly what I want. I don't want to depend on anybody else. We win this game, we're in.
Yeah, I mean, if they win all their divisional games, that'll take them to 11 wins, and that's pretty much playoff form guaranteed. But all right, let's move on to our last game, and let's stay in the NFC North for a second and look at actually the leaders of the group, which is the Chicago Bears. Now they play against, where do they? So they are at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's have a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they've been they're top of their division, they're top of the AFC North, but that's a very, that's a very close run thing. They're 6-4. They're being chased very much by a on fire Baltimore Ravens, who are now 5-5 but won the last 4. So again, the pressure is on Pittsburgh. They are going to be without Aaron Rodgers, who's picked up a wrist injury. I think he's out for this weekend. But the Bears, again, you would have said this beginning of the season. You would have said this will probably be a shoo-in for the Steelers. No one would have thought the Chicago Bears would be, coming up to the end of November, be 7-3, the top of the NFC North, and they are doing incredibly well. We talked about it a bit last week when we spoke early this week. Again, tough one to call. Where's your head at this one?
Yeah, I would have loved Aaron Rodgers to go to play this game, because Aaron Rodgers used to own the Bears. I mean, this was when he was in the Packers. The Bears just couldn't buy a win for love or money. It was always very predictable. I still remember this game where he was still in the Packers and he scored this touchdown, and he went to the Bears fans and did like the whole sort of WWE kind of like waist belt around the waist, like I own this. This is the Aaron Rodgers, town, Aaron Rodgers city. And maybe the Bears would have been having PTSD seeing Aaron Rodgers come through the tunnel and be like, oh, goodness me. I thought we had gotten rid of him, setting him out of our division. And here he comes again, to come and smite us. Yeah, I mean, the Bears, I picked against them, last week. And I still believe that what is keeping the Bears afloat is the coaching. They've got great coaching, but fourth quarter comebacks, are like there are sort of things that are very, very you cannot depend on them, right? 4 of their last 5 games, they've had fourth quarter comebacks to win them. All kinds of freakish things happening, and you can look at it and say, well, maybe that's some of that Kansas City magic, right? Because remember, and some of the things that have been happening to them used to happen to the Chiefs: blocked, punts, field goals, people fumbling the ball in the last possession. And then in this last game, right, they were slated to lose that game, only for, in the kickoff, the player running over 40 yards to put them in field position so that they can kick that winning field goal and win the game. I don't think the Steelers are going to let that happen in this game. I think the Steelers have got a much better defense than what they faced recently. The Steelers, even without Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin likes to keep all these kind of games close. This is the kind of game that the Steelers can make very stingy and boring, that it's like field goals. Everybody's kicking field goals, and they've got experience in doing that. So I'm going to go with the Steelers on this one, because I trust the Steelers coach. I trust the Steelers defense. They may not have Aaron Rodgers there, but I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring kind of game. I think this is a game that defenses are going to have to show up. And I think the defense of the Steelers are just a little bit better than the defense of the Bears. Having said that, I know that the Bears take the ball away, but I don't think that, they face, defenses like the one they're going to face against Steelers.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this one, and I decided to land on the side of the Bears for no real reason. I agree that it's not going to be a particularly good game, right? It's going to be a low-scoring game, so I was really excited when you picked this one. I thought, what a great game. Thanks, Eddie. But no, I agree with you that it's going to be a low-scoring game. Obviously, Rudolph's going to come in as quarterback for Pittsburgh. I agree that Tomlin's probably going to try and keep this to basically field goal city here, but I don't know. I like what the Bears are doing. The Bears have sort of outperformed even their own expectations this season. They're in a situation where they could easily make the playoffs and maybe even be favourites to make the playoffs in their division. And we talked about everything being in Packers' own hands. The Bears have to play the Packers twice as well. Right? So if the Bears win both of these games, we could be talking about the Bears guaranteeing themselves being in the playoffs, which was which would have been on many people's bingo cards at the beginning of the season. So I'm just going to take a gamble. I'm going to go for the Bears. They're probably the in-4 team over the Steelers. Steelers are probably a better team. I think that's fair to say. But I just think that the way that the Bears have been playing, I'd fancy them to take it. So yeah, that's where. As I said, I can afford to take risks, Eddie.
You can.
I can afford
to with your 12
ahead. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, out of those 5, it's going to be quite exciting. You know, we've both picked the Packers and we've both picked the Patriots, but beyond that, we've gone for different. So this is a time. You could potentially be clawing 3 back on me, Eddie, by the time this time we're speaking next week.
I could, or you could be throwing the fireworks again.
Oh, I could be 15 up, yeah. So, the fireworks only come out when someone hits a 5. A perfect game. But yeah, look, those are our picks for week 12. Things are certainly getting more exciting. So certainly things are hotting up, I should say, in the NFL. The playoffs are beginning to, we are now talking about playoff contenders, and each game is carrying a lot of meaning. So it's getting pretty exciting, I think it's fair to say. But for now, I'll say goodbye. We'll be back next week, where we are going to review all the actions, and we're back in a week's time when we'll look at our picks for week 13, as always. So Eddie, please, for the end of this week, take us home.
Yeah, what has been a very unpredictable NFL season is slowly getting to the business end. As Sir Alex Ferguson used to say, squeaky bum time for a lot of teams. So it's either, you win or you go home. We're getting into that territory. And there are a couple of teams that have already started packing their Christmas, things in, packing for the holidays, looking at booking.com and, trying to see where their next holidays are going to be. But for us, we're going to be back next week to see how well we did.
Where you go with all this?
We're not going anywhere. No. But I do want to say I do appreciate all of you that watch the channel. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. And some of you may, get here and you forget, don't realize that you haven't subscribed and you want to go back and subscribe. Please do. More importantly, put in some comments as well. Let's know what you think about our picks, or maybe what you think about how terrible I've been in my picks in the last couple of weeks. Either way, love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, feel free to send your congratulations my way as well. That's the main thing. Tell me how wonderful I am, and how well we're getting on.
And it is the week that Matt finally gets it all wrong.
Hey, well, if I get it all wrong, you're going to get a couple wrong as well. That's all I'm going to say.
This is true.
I think the most thing we forgot to mention, Eddie, actually, is by the time we come, not only is it week 12 will be reviewed, this is a big weekend for both English football, for both of us, because am I right in saying it's a North London derby this weekend, but also it's the Steel City derby as well. So when Monday comes around, if we have a Tottenham victory and a Sheffield United victory, you're going to be two very pissed off co-hosts at Across the Gridiron.
Very true. And then add that to a Cowboys playing the Eagles as well.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Oh, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that already.
I also asked Dynamic, so yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But I'll let you guys come to the next one to see exactly how that turned out. So we'll see you guys all at the next Across the Gridiron.
I'm the bad guy. I'm the